Hey guys, Kevin Shaw here, editor-in-chief of Mopar Connection Magazine, and I'm sitting in the back seat of our 1969 Dodge Charger project car that we call Brazen. Now, if you like this car and you want to know more about it, you can always go to our projects page at moparconnectionmagazine.com, click on projects. You'll see a drop down with all of our project cars, including this car here, and you get to see all the things that we have done over the years with this 69 Charger. So why on earth am I sitting back here? Well, I kind of wanted to talk about the old Chargers versus the new Chargers. And there's a lot of guys who give a lot of grief to, oh, it's not a real Charger because it's got 4 doors, and the real Chargers only had 2 doors. And even though I've had this car since I was a kid, and it's been my love and passion for Mopars, this is what really started it. I really personally don't have a problem with a 4-door Charger. And so much so that when we first launched Mopar Connection Magazine, we had to reach out to Chrysler just to make sure that we were allowed to use the word Mopar. They're pretty tight about who's allowed to use the Omega M and the Mopar name. You just can't print shirts and expect not to get sued. So when we reached out, one of the things they said was, man, we really like that you guys are really positive towards the new cars, and you're not poo-pooing the darts, and you're not coming down on a 4-door Charger. We really like that. You know, you guys are really open to all the different cars. And I said, well, of course. And I actually talked about this car to the legal department. And what was really funny was, as I'll tell you right now, I'm 6'2" and 240 pounds, and I'm sitting with the seat all the way back with a roll cage right above my head, and I've got all the room in the world. And these are big cars. These were intermediate cars back in 1969. There were entry-level cars like a Dart or a Valiant or a Barracuda, and then you had your intermediate-sized B-body cars, and then you had your larger C-bodies. Those were full-size sedans and coupes. The intermediate cars, I mean, I've got about 1.5 to 2 inches in front of my knees if I sit like this. So when the new Chargers came out in 2006, and then obviously with the more modern versions, you have the Hellcats and the Scat Packs and all the achievements that are done with these high-performance models, I really didn't see a problem with there being an extra set of doors. Now, let's talk a little bit of inside baseball. And I know a lot of guys emotionally are not going to be on board with this, and I'm kind of spitting in the wind, but there is a reason why they're not going to sell a intermediate size, or what we would call a full size today, Charger with 2 doors. To be honest, the reason is the 1970s. In the 70s, American cars got huge, and they kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Smog restrictions were making them slower and slower and slower, and the combination of such were these giant lumbering, these weren't muscle cars. These were the Cordobas and the Magnums and these big, heavy 2-door coupes that just didn't have enough power to move themselves, and the sales were so low and the stigma was so bad. It's what, quite frankly, gave Japan the leg up during the 1980s. That stigma still resides. That stigma towards a larger American 2-door sedan, or 2-door coupe, excuse me, is enough to scare away automakers today. You don't see Chevrolet making a 2-door Impala. You don't see Ford making anything remotely close. There's no Fairlane. There's no 500. And quite frankly, for Dodge, they're not going to make a 2-door Charger. I would love to see a brand new Hellcat Charger, you know, full length, larger than a Challenger, that is a 2-door with a hardtop. Holy cow, that'd be great. But the reality is, you're not going to see it. The last hardtop 2-door performance sedan that we've ever seen came out of Mercedes-Benz, and the reality is that 4 doors are more accessible. It lets more people in and out. They see it as more utility. People want more utility in their vehicles. That's why trucks are still such a major seller in the United States. So unfortunately, you see a lot of nuts and bolts, you see a lot of inside baseball directing what we would be passionate about, but they ultimately need to sell cars. Now, that doesn't detract from this car, and that doesn't detract from those cars. I always make the joke, I said, what's wrong with a sedan that seats 5, goes 204 miles an hour on the Nürburgring, and has satellite radio and dual climate control and all these great things, and goes 10 seconds in the quarter mile? How can you say no to that? So I personally am floored by what the Hellcat Chargers can do, and I think they're great. Obviously, you know, they don't have the pure retro. There's lots of retro DNA, especially in the taillights, and you see in the coves and the belt lines and the shoulder lines of the car. But ultimately, they're not as hardcore retro as you would say the Challenger is. But I really do like the new Chargers, and I think once we can kind of get out of our own skin and look at what they're doing with that car, I think a lot of us hardcore purists will go, okay, yeah, I see it. I see it. And there's a lot of really neat stuff happening in the future with these cars. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of really neat stuff that's coming out in the future, and there's a lot to be excited about. So, guys, if you found yourself sneering at the new Chargers, I really want you to take a second look at them. I really do think that you might come around like I have.